Purple beams from the Xaperian war cruiser lit up the void around Haven's Rest colony. High Commander Velter stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human settlement through the main viewport. His four-scaled arms moved confidently across the control consoles, fluid, precise. The outcome of this battle was already a foregone conclusion. Status of the colony's shields? Velter asked, not turning from the view. His weapons officer answered immediately. Down to 60%, Commander. Following their own protocols, they should surrender when it hits 40%. Velter gave a slow nod, his ridged head bobbing. As expected. This was how wars were fought across the galaxy. Everyone, every civilized species, followed the same playbook. You stood at a distance, you fired your energy weapons, you ran the math, and when the numbers said defeat was inevitable, you surrendered. Simple. Efficient. Civilized. The Xaperians had followed these rules for centuries, millennia, in fact. They'd conquered 47 worlds without ever needing to get close. Why would they? Their energy cannons were unmatched. Their shields were the strongest in known space. And their predictive battle algorithms could simulate an entire engagement before the first shot was fired. Any response from the humans? Velter asked. Strategic analyst Kixara looked up from her glowing interface. She was small for a Xaperian, and her scales shimmered a pale green rather than the usual purple. That made her a bit of an oddity. But she was sharp. They've sent a distress signal into deep space, Commander. Standard emergency broadcast. Requesting assistance. Velter chuckled, a sound like crushed stone in a steel drum. Assistance? From who? He shook his head and turned back to the screen. We've studied them. They're barely above pre-industrial. They still launch chemical rockets. Most of their weapons are kinetic-based. Kinetic. That's tech from the fossil age. Kixara frowned slightly, her eyes still locked onto her screen. There was something about these humans that didn't quite sit right. Their historical data was erratic. Commander, she said cautiously, their development doesn't follow standard galactic patterns. Every other species grows, innovates, fights a few early wars, and then transitions, matures, into peaceful coexistence. War becomes a science. A calculated ritual. But the humans, she paused. The humans never stopped fighting. Velter arched a scaled brow. Their history is an unbroken chain of conflict. Tribes to nations to planets. They've been at war for 10,000 years, and they seem to treat it like a form of entertainment. Their sports are combat. Their games are war simulations. Violence isn't just tolerated, it's baked into their culture. Velter waved a hand dismissively. They'll surrender soon enough. They always do. Colony shields at 45%, Commander, the weapons officer reported. Prepare to receive their formal surrender. Velter's voice was calm. This was routine. Predictable. Soon, the humans would bow, and Xaperian control would expand by one more world. Commander, the comms officer suddenly called out, eyes wide. Long-range sensors are picking up a ship. It's coming in fast. Velter whipped around. Single vessel. Yes, sir. Unknown class. And it's enormous. Kixara's console began to flash. Commander, she said, voice tightening. The ship's broadcasting. Put it on audio. The bridge speakers crackled, then a human voice came through, calm, cold, utterly confident. This is Admiral Marcus Kane of the USS Vengeance. You have attacked human civilians. Prepare for consequences. Velter's jaw tightened. That was not the message he expected. Respond. Tell them we're open to terms. Let's not escalate unnecessarily. No response, Commander. They've cut communications. The tactical display showed the red dot growing ever closer. Faster than any sane, civilized vessel should move during a conflict. Velter straightened. He had 12 cruisers in this formation. The finest in the fleet. Superior firepower. Infallible shields. The odds were still on his side. Time to intercept. Estimated 12 minutes, replied the helmsman. Velter activated fleet-wide comms. All ships prepare for engagement. Standard formation. This will be a textbook demonstration of Xiperian strength. But Kixara wasn't so sure. Her eyes flicked across human military archives faster than ever. Commander, she said softly. We may have miscalculated. What are you talking about? We assumed the humans would fight like everyone else. But their entire history says otherwise. They don't use combat simulations. They test everything in real engagements. Their tactics, their weapons, even their training, it's all battlefield proven. Velter frowned. They're primitive. Chemical propulsion. Kinetic weapons. Our battle AI gives us a 98% chance of victory. Yes, Kixara replied, but that's against species who follow the rules. Before Velter could respond, the main screen changed. The human vessel had dropped out of hyperspace. It was enormous. Bigger than any cruiser in the fleet, perhaps bigger than 3 combined. Its hull was dark, angular, and bristling with weapon ports. Not the elegant energy emitters of civilized warfare, but something else. Target the vessel, Velter ordered. Prepare to fire. The USS Vengeance made no effort to zigzag or stay at range. It came directly at them, fast, steady, and unshaken. Commander, the weapons officer said uneasily. They're closing to point-blank range. They're ignoring standard engagement distance. Idiots, Velter muttered. Fire all weapons. 12 Xiperian cruisers opened fire at once. Brilliant purple energy beams slashed across space. They should have sliced through any known shield configuration. But they didn't. The beams struck the Vengeance's hull and fizzled. They dispersed. They were absorbed. What just happened? Velter barked. Commander, the weapons officer's voice trembled. I don't think that's a shield. I think it's armor. Physical armor. Velter's face twisted. That's impossible. No one's used metal plating in over 1,000 years. Energy shields are more efficient. But even as he said it, he could see the truth on the display. The ship was covered in slabs of dark alloy. Brutally thick. Purposefully designed. Uncivilized. On the USS Vengeance's bridge, Admiral Kane leaned forward in his chair. Tactical status, he asked. Commander Lisa Brooks nodded, cool and focused. 12 enemy cruisers. All in tight formation. Energy weapons only. No kinetic defenses detected. Kane smiled. They fight by the book. That's their problem. Weapons systems were armed and ready. Let's remind them that humans don't play by the rules. The Vengeance fired its main guns, simple tungsten rods hurled at near light speed using magnetic acceleration. No energy payload. Just raw, solid metal. The first enemy cruiser vanished. Not exploded. Not disabled. Just, gone. Obliterated in an instant. Back on Velter's bridge, panic rippled like a tidal wave. What was that? He screamed. The weapons officer could barely speak. It was a physical projectile, Commander. Kinetic. Traveling at relativistic velocity. Our shields couldn't stop it. Kixara turned, her expression pale with something that looked like fear. Commander, she said. While we perfected energy shields, they perfected weapons that bypassed them. Velter's mind reeled. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Keep distance. But the Vengeance didn't give them the chance. It fired again. The second Zephyrian cruiser attempted to veer away, but it was far too slow. Another tungsten rod screamed through space, piercing the hull as if it were made of paper. A blinding flash, then silence. The ship disintegrated from the inside out. On the USS Vengeance, Admiral Kane observed the enemy fleet calmly. "Status?" he asked. Commander Brooks kept her tone level. "Second ship destroyed." No response yet from the rest of the fleet. "They're holding formation." Kane nodded. "They don't know what to do. Their tactics are rigid, predictable. They rely on simulations, not instinct. Ready weapons for next salvo," he ordered. Meanwhile, Kixara's fingers flew across her console. She had been reading human military archives non-stop since the Vengeance arrived, trying to understand the horror they were now facing. "Commander," she whispered, "I was wrong earlier. This isn't just a tactical miscalculation." Velter glanced over, shaken. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we thought humans fought like everyone else. That they were just less advanced. But that's not it. Their entire civilization has grown around conflict. Their tactics, their weapons, everything is optimized for real, messy, brutal war. Not this calculated chess game we're used to. They don't just fight. They practice for it, obsess over it, live for it." Velter's jaw clenched, scales tightening across his face. "Primitive madness." "Effective madness," she corrected. "Commander," shouted the comms officer. "The human ship is launching small craft. Not standard fighters, they're something else." The view screen switched to the new contacts, dozens of heavily armored shuttles swarming out of the Vengeance like hornets from a nest. But they didn't fly in neat formations. They weaved, dodged, darted between cruisers in a chaotic, unpredictable mess. "Destroy them!" Velter shouted. His cruisers responded, lashing out with precision energy fire. But the human craft were too fast. Too erratic. They moved with no discernible pattern, no algorithm to anticipate. Several shuttles slipped right past the defensive grid and slammed into Zephyrian hulls. On board one of those shuttles, Captain Jake Murphy checked his gear one last time. 40 Marines in full combat armor were strapped in around him, weapons loaded, visors down. No fear in their eyes. Just purpose. 2 minutes to contact, the pilot called out. Across from him, Sergeant Amy Collins grinned behind her visor. "Think they'll even know what hit them, Captain?" Murphy shook his head. "Doubt it. Intelligence says they've never trained for this kind of engagement. Their ships aren't designed to fight inside." Torres, the tech specialist, was already scanning the cruiser's interior through the hull. Wide corridors. Thin internal walls. No checkpoints. It's like they assumed no one would ever get this close. Murphy laughed once, darkly. "That's about to change." Clang. The boarding shuttle connected with the enemy cruiser. Magnetic clamps locked the vessel in place. Sparks lit up the front as the cutting torches began to slice through Zephyrian armor. Inside the alien ship, alarms blared. Officers shouted over each other in confusion. Panic. What is happening? Are they docking with us? No procedure for this, Commander. Get to your stations. It was too late. The corridor wall exploded inward, smoke and debris flooding the chamber. Through the haze stepped shadows, humans in full-body armor, moving with terrifying coordination. Their weapons weren't elegant energy rifles. They fired solid projectiles. Loud. Lethal. Captain Murphy stepped through the breach. His rifle swept side to side. The corridor was exactly as Torres predicted, undefended and open. The aliens didn't stand a chance. Secure this hallway. Collins, bridge is yours. Torres. Get to the core. 10 minutes. Move. The Marines stormed the ship like a hurricane. They moved in teams, cleared sections quickly, used flashbangs and grenades, advanced with flawless coordination. The Zephyrians tried to fight back, but their energy weapons weren't built for this. They were slow to fire, awkward in tight quarters. Sergeant Collins kicked open the door to the bridge. Several alien officers froze in place, staring at her in terror. She raised her rifle. Bridge secure, she said into her comms. Back aboard the USS Vengeance, Admiral Kane watched as live feeds came in from the boarding teams. 8 minutes to capture, Commander Brooks confirmed. Minimal resistance. The ship is under our control. Kane nodded. Very good. Prepare next wave. Brooks's eyes flicked over tactical data. Enemy fleet is pulling back. They're trying to re-establish distance. Of course they are, Kane said. They want to go back to the way they know how to fight. Long range. Calculated. Safe. He tapped a button. Launch the fighters. Commander Brooks hesitated. Sir, you're referring to the modified shuttles, right? These aren't actual fighters. They are now. Dozens of small, heavily armed craft launched from the Vengeance, fast, maneuverable, unpredictable. They didn't form squadrons. They didn't engage in coordinated volleys. Instead, they acted like a swarm. Independent, aggressive, smart. They didn't fight the way the galaxy expected. The Zephyrian cruisers tried to counterattack, but their energy weapons couldn't track the human fighters. The erratic flight paths defied all prediction models. Missed shot after missed shot. Meanwhile, the human ship struck weapon turrets, engines, weak points with brutal precision. Velter watched his forces fall apart. This can't be happening, he muttered. Why can't we hit them? They aren't flying predictable patterns, Kixara replied quietly. They improvise. That's why our computers can't calculate responses. Velter turned to her, pale. How many ships have we lost? 6 destroyed. 1 captured. 3 heavily damaged. Half our fleet, gone. And the human ship? Kixara glanced at the screen. Minimal damage. Their physical armor absorbs our energy fire. It's effective. Velter's chest constricted. Commander, his comms officer said, we're receiving a message. From the human admiral. Put it through. Admiral Kane's voice filled the bridge, measured, cold, final. Zephyrian Commander. You have 2 options. Surrender now and be treated under human military law, or continue fighting and be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to decide. Velter looked around. His crew, veterans of dozens of battles, stood frozen. Pale. Shaken. Defeated before the next shot even fired. Send the surrender signal, he whispered. On board the Vengeance, the signal flashed across Kane's screen. Commander Brooks, he said, prepare a response. She turned. Sir, they're surrendering. Kane's expression hardened. They attacked our civilians. Galactic protocols didn't stop them. We won't follow theirs now. He opened the comm line again. Zephyrian Commander. Your surrender is rejected. You attacked innocents. Now you'll see what happens when you provoke humanity. Back on the Zephyrian bridge, the crew froze again. Rejected? Velter said, stunned. But we surrendered. It's over. Kixara stared at her screen. Not by their rules. Commander, they're going to make an example of us. Why? That isn't civilized warfare. No, she said, it's human warfare. And it's just getting started. On the captured cruiser, Captain Murphy gathered the 47 Zephyrian prisoners in the cargo bay. They were huddled together, visibly shaken. Their scales were pale with fear, their eyes darting toward the armored human soldiers surrounding them. Murphy stood in front of them, his voice amplified by his helmet. "Listen up," he said. "We're not here to hurt you. Not unless we have to. But you attacked innocent civilians. And now, you're going to learn who we are." He nodded to tech specialist Torres, who activated the main view screen. It lit up with raw, unedited footage from Earth's violent past. Gasps rippled through the alien prisoners as they watched, Vikings charging across open fields with axes and shields, Roman legions marching with brutal discipline, medieval knights locked in close combat. Then came the modern footage. World War II soldiers storming beaches under withering fire, tanks blasting through urban battlegrounds, space marines in combat suits clearing tunnels on Mars. "This is how humans have always fought," Murphy said. "Not from a distance. Not with simulations. Up close. With pain. With sacrifice." Sergeant Collins stepped forward, pointing to a clip of a bloodied Marine dragging a comrade to safety. "See him? He's shot. Probably won't survive. But he's still fighting. That's the difference. We don't quit. We don't stop. We fight until the job's done." One Zephyrian prisoner finally spoke, voice trembling. "Why do they not retreat when wounded?" "Because if they retreat," Murphy answered, "their friends die. And humans don't leave their friends behind." Back on the Vengeance, Admiral Kane stood silently as the bridge hummed with activity. Commander Brooks looked up from her station. "Enemy ships are retreating. They're pulling back to long-range positions. They want to reset the board," Kane said. "Back to their comfort zone." He turned to his tactical officer. "Launch all remaining fighters. Full attack formation." "But Admiral," Brooks said, "those aren't really fighters. They're just converted shuttles." Kane gave a small smile. "Exactly. The newly deployed craft blasted out of the Vengeance's hangars. Unlike traditional fleets, they didn't form wings or wait for orders. Each pilot attacked independently, using asteroids for cover, using erratic flight paths, exploiting weaknesses the Zephyrians didn't even know they had. Then the psychological warfare began. Human fighters began transmitting audio across every open frequency. Not just battle comms. Not threats. But recordings. The sounds of war. Screams. Gunfire. Explosions. Battle cries from every corner of Earth's history. And then the music. Military anthems, chants, and songs about sacrifice, loyalty, and honor. Melodies laced with defiance. Lyrics promising no surrender. Dr. Helen Park, the Vengeance's combat psychologist, monitored alien responses. Her console lit up with incoming comm data. "Admiral," she said, "it's working. Their crews are panicking. I'm hearing reports of officers refusing orders. Weapons teams abandoning stations." "Why?" Commander Brooks asked. Dr. Park turned slowly. "Because they've never seen this before. Their view of war is clean. Ours is something else entirely. They don't understand enemies who enjoy the fight." Kane nodded. "Then let's keep the pressure on." Down among the enemy cruisers, Lieutenant Sam Rivera flew his modified fighter in low. While Zephyrian weapons tried to track the chaos, he slipped through a gap in their formation. Instead of firing, he did something no one in the galaxy had ever seen. He rammed his fighter into one of their weapon turrets, on purpose. The turret exploded in a flash of light. His ship, now barely holding together, drifted dangerously close to another cruiser. Inside, the Xiperian crew scrambled in disbelief. "He's crashing into our turrets," someone yelled. "Why? It's suicide." But Rivera wasn't finished. He ejected from his craft and used a personal thruster pack to land directly on the cruiser's outer hull. There, in the vacuum of space, he began planting charges on the ship's shield emitters. "There's a human on our hull," the weapons officer screamed. "That's impossible. No one fights in space without a ship." "Tell that to him," Velter growled. The explosions ripped through the emitters, leaving the ship defenseless. Back on the Vengeance, Admiral Kane received updates from every front: Marines capturing ships, fighters disabling others, enemy crews surrendering in droves. "Admiral," Commander Brooks said, "Xiperian High Command just sent a broadcast to their fleet. They're ordering a full withdrawal." Kane stared at the screen. "Do we let them go?" she asked. Kane's jaw tightened. "They attacked Haven's Rest. 50,000 civilians. This is their lesson." He turned to the helm. "Pursue." What happened next stunned the galaxy. The Vengeance, supported by newly commandeered enemy ships, chased the retreating fleet across 3 star systems. One by one, they captured or destroyed every Xiperian ship they caught. At the final battle, near a heavily fortified Xiperian military station, High Commander Velter made a desperate final plea. "Human Admiral, we acknowledge your superiority. We'll pay reparations. Tribute. Territory. What more do you want?" Kane's reply was transmitted live to every ship in the system. "You made a mistake," he said. "You thought war was about numbers, technology, probability. But it's not. War is about will. And humans have more of it than you ever imagined." The remaining ships surrendered, not because their weapons failed, not because they were outgunned, but because their crews couldn't bring themselves to fight anymore. Not against that. Later, Dr. Park submitted a full analysis to Earth Command. It would change the way every species in the galaxy viewed humanity. The Xiperians, like many species, evolved past war. They made it a science. Clean. Controlled. But humans? We didn't evolve past war. We evolved through it. The battle was over. But the war for humanity's place in the stars had just begun.